This both in. Okay, we're live now. So
All right,
we'll
we're
see
live
if
now.
anybody joins us. So
Mm-hmm.
Chris, oh, there's
Hey,
Chuck. Let me get Chuck on here.
yeah, good check in.
Let me see here. Come on, here we go. Add to stage. There we
There he
go.
is. Oh, look at
There,
that
Hey
background.
Chuck. Oh, I love the
That
background.
glorious
That's
background.
there.
awesome.
Very nice, Chuck. Well done.
Yeah.
So hey Chuck. So we're live now, right? And
Hmm.
Yeah.
we got absolutely nobody watching right now. So there's
Perfect.
two people. So great. So I don't know who yet, but so welcome. First let me welcome you guys. We got Chris Moeler, right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Okay, nailed that. See, I'm lucky already.
Here, I'll see
Chuck
if I can. Let me see. I can figure out how to change my
Chuck,
name. I know
Chuck,
there's a way to
Sil-
do this.
Chuck Silverstein. So welcome. We got a
Nice.
couple people in the chat. Oh, Dan, we got Danny and Matt. If you're in the chat, thanks for IDing yourself as we go. If you just ask questions and stuff, we'll get
There you
rolling.
go.
So one thing, I always Ruggiero's corner. Hopefully you guys will have some fun here. Where we meet the wargamer. We got Chris designed for Compass Games. What's the name of the game, Chris? Again, the
Burning
Burning.
Banners is the fantasy game that's coming out.
So if you don't have that pre-ordered, you better
Cool.
Better
pre-order.
get on it. It's
Yeah,
coming. It's
I
on the
got.
boat.
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll talk some about that. So I guess the first thing what I always like to start off with is like the most, I hate to say it, basic question of all is what got you started in wargaming? And we'll go to Chuck next. What got you started in wargaming, and like why do you wargame? What brings you
Let's
joy
actually
about it?
let's start with Chuck because Chuck is
Okay.
the elder statesman
Oh,
in
all
our
right.
gaming
Hey,
group.
it's
That's
all
right.
So
good.
he goes back a little further than me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
All right.
Well, for me, it all started with the centennial of the Civil War, and on a trip to Gettysburg, saw the first ever war game I'd ever heard of, which was the old Avalon Hill Gettysburg, which was with the square hexes, not the hexagonal hexes.
Right.
So between that, also my dad was a World War II vet. My mom was a French bride, so that kind of segued me into all of French history. I just kind of grew up having an interest in that, and all through my middle school years, it was like on my holiday list would be the latest Avalon Hill game coming out, and then when I was in college, had to kind of keep that under wraps with all that was going on in Vietnam. But that's when S&T magazine came out, so then it was just off to the races after that. And
Nice.
I do it in a sense a little bit is kind of like a Walter Mitty sort of thing. Don't know if the younger people appreciate that reference, but it's kind of like, well, what would you do if you were there, kind of thing. And I've sort of gravitated towards more tactical level games as time has gone on.
Nice. No, that's great.
well,
How can I?
it's like the old Avalon Hill boxer said. You are there,
Yeah.
Right,
right?
exactly.
That was what sucked me in.
Yeah.
I was
So
all right. So I'll go. So my first war game was Avalon Hill War at Sea, which I got from KB Toy and Hobby down at the Fayetteville Mall. I biked down there, and I remember it had on the box. It said, I think it had a "You Are There" on there, but it said, "Begin a lifetime of pleasure. Begin with War at Sea." And I remember my dad like laughing at me, like, "Oh, that's pretty funny." But I mean, boy, was it right? I mean, it was right on the money. You know what I mean? Like ever since then, I was hooked. So, um,
nice.
yeah, I actually had the other thing was my family. My dad worked for General Electric, and they had this partnership program with Toshiba, and so we had these Japanese fellows come over and stay with us to do meetings with General Electric, and one of them sent their sons over, and he bought Panzer Leader, and he bought Third Reich, both from Avalon Hill. And I remember him sitting in our guest room, and I still have the version of Third Reich that has all the Japanese translations in the margins. He left that one here because he could
Oh
never figure
wow.
it out. But Panzer Blitz he took back with him, and we played that. We played a bunch of that, and that became again one of my favorite games. That whole system.
So
Um, yeah.
really quick, what year was that?
Uh,
Remember?
I was
Well,
pretty young.
Panzer Blitz came out in 1970.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I know that. I guess
I'm trying to think. I was like a tween. So 12, 13. So like, let's say 75, 77, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
No, the
I-
reason I ask is and a lot of people know this about me, but I literally started 1975. I was 10 years old. I'm saying it quick because I've shared it about a million times, but and I had a subscription to Boys Life magazine, and there was an ad in there for this game called Tactics 2, Command Your Own Armies. And a lot of people don't know Monarch Avalon was the publisher for Boys Life magazine.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I had Boys
Yeah.
Life too. Yeah.
And
No, I had no idea.
so I saved up my $5, and there was probably a KB's Toys or something. It was in Chico, California, and went and bought that, and then so it took me about 6 months to figure out how to play that, because we all forget War Games has its own language, right? So
Yeah, for sure.
it was like, gee, not only was I 10, but then you're trying to figure out, which, of course, now oh my God, it's so simple. And then my second game was Third Reich, got it for Christmas. I think that took me about 6 more months to figure out how to play it. It was kind of like going from elementary school to college, but
Yeah.
So
Nothing in between.
yeah, but and so today I'm at the post office, and this show's about you guys, but I got to share the story. It's funny, and I've been, sadly, selling a lot of my collection. I call it helping unburden my family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And still buying here and there, but mostly selling. And this guy was like, "Oh my God, what is this?" And so my wife's telling this guy, "Oh, it's my husband's game collection." And da 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 da. I said, "How long's he been doing it?" "Oh, since he was 10 years old, and my house is full of games." I was like, "Yeah, it is getting less." But I see Mike Kelly's on here. He's been to my house. But so what, Chris? Tell us. So I know you already said it 4 times. Burning lands, right? No.
Burning banners. Here's the.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go. There you go. Look at that.
Right. And
this is a coincidence.
Needless to say, as soon as
What a coincidence. Well, here I am in my studio. So,
and me and David White started, the Compass Games Enthusiast page on Facebook, which is now over 3,000 members. And but what's great is the few people we got, and anybody that sees this video, like, you need to buy this game. Like, okay, like I kid you not, the day it was announced, I pre-ordered it because I'm a fan.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Mark.
So,
appreciate it. Well, Chuck is one of the veteran play testers of that game.
Awesome. I've had the pleasure of play testing, but I want to know from you, Chuck. So you said the French history, and I will tell you this, and I'm going to just be blunt. I'm a game whore. If it's a war game, I've always loved it. It's brought me lots of passion. I've probably spent the majority of my time. I've never dropped out of gaming ever. I mean, I had times in my life when but I am curious. I've been playing La Bataille, Kevin's wonderful Library of Battles games, but I play World War II. If it's a war game, but I guess what I want to hear from you is what's something you want to share, like, that just brings you a lot of joy, or do you have a favorite game series? And I'm going to get back to you, Chris, but I want to hear what I think.
Well, I certainly have done my fair share of collecting. My wife thinks I'm shading on hoarding, but I said, no. I found a Facebook post that here's the difference between collecting and hoarding. I'm definitely collecting, but I sort of looked at it that getting a war game was back in the day where I was more profligate. It was kind of like, if a topic interested me, I wanted to get a war game kind of as in a better way of learning what had happened in the dynamics of it than just reading a textbook. You can read a textbook, but then you sort of see in real life how things sort of played out. And yeah, well, I still have more ASL games than I'm ever going to play in my life.
I was just flashing the Roger McGowan because I'm
That's
a
right.
real
Yeah.
fanboy.
Yeah.
of his.
Well, I was a play tester on the original squad leader, and they misspelled my name in the credits. I'm C. Silverton for everybody who wants to know. And my big contribution was I said that Russian medium machine guns, because they were mounted on a wheeled chassis, shouldn't be able to fire in the advancing fire phase. So, one of my few claims to fame. But
let me.
I'm the
So
fan.
Chris, I promise you, but I've got to
No, dig in.
no,
follow up, Chuck.
sure.
For the love of God, so
Mhm.
honestly, did you know Bob Medro?
Uh, I probably may have rushed into him
Ah,
because I grew up in Baltimore. So at that time they had the old Avalon Hill publishing offices were right in Baltimore. And when I was there, when I was in med school, I used to go down there on Saturdays to sort of see what's happening.
no,
Actually, I think I got to know more Bob McNamara because I
right.
remember I walked in and they said, "Oh, here's a guy off the street." And they asked me what I thought about the combat resolution in Tobruk. I said, too much die
I love
rolling. I said,
Oh my God, I
you
love
see.
Tobruk. I still to this day I still play Tobruk once a year.
No,
But
no.
I want to tell you only reason I ask is because I got to tell you Bob Medro's in his late 80s.
Mhm,
Sadly, I lost touch with him about 6 months ago. I think he's still alive because I found his
mhm,
obituary.
mhm,
But he was an original playtester for Squad Leader and Cross of
mhm,
Iron,
mhm,
and I got to know him through. I helped him develop some of the stuff for Decision Game Storm of Steel,
mhm.
and we actually would met up. But he taught engineering at university near Rolla, Missouri. So I think it was the state college there, University of Missouri. I can't remember, but I always ask that because if you look in the leader counters, he's
Yeah,
Medro in the original
yeah,
squad leader.
right.
And the thing I never got, sadly, is he was going through his stuff. His wife had passed away, and he was like in an assisted living home. And I talked to him until he said until about 6 or 7 months ago. But um, I, and I never got him. But he was like, Mark, when I find my original Cross of Iron playtest notes, I'm going to send them to you. And but anyway, I always ask because he wrote a lot of the clinics for the general too.
Right, yeah, yeah. He did.
So, anyways, so Chris, what brings you a lot of joy about wargaming, or what real or memory, or whatever you want to share? Honestly, like what?
Yeah, well, I'm like you. I sort of never took a pause. I moved around. Like I did a lot of role playing in college, Traveler, and Dungeons and Dragons in high school, and all that. But yeah, one of my favorite systems. I mean, I'm looking at my wall over here. I really like the Great Campaigns, American Civil War. Those are super cool.
Oh yeah,
The obviously Kevin Zucker's system, Third World War. Huge fan of that. Back in the day, played that a ton. What else was over there? Mark Walker's World at War system
hmm
that he came up with, battalion level. I'm pretty eclectic. I'm kind of like Chuck, where uh, the minute I pick up a book about something,
Yeah.
I want a game about it,
Mhm.
and vice versa. Like I just bought Paul Rohrbach's a couple of his little
excuse me,
battles for Canada, which are like a DTP kind of
right?
system, and immediately got a book on it, and pulled out all my other 1812 games. So it's sort of like, it's funny. It's like I think, like I was talking to Kevin Zucker, this was years ago, and about that idea of you get certain information from books, and then you get different information from a game.
Right.
And one of the things that, especially now that I've tried designing this stuff, that you realize is that a game is very unforgiving in a way. So you need to know what the literal entry time is for a unit, let's say. And in a book, you can say, in fact, we were reading, I think it was Belmont, a buddy of mine, we were talking about this. And at the Battle of Belmont, these guys arrived at 2. and then some more guys arrived at 2, and then they ran away at 2, and then they
Right.
launched a charge at 2. And I'm like, this is useless to me. But you can kind of get away with that in a book because it's like, people aren't paying that much attention. But when you're building a game or when you're playing a game, you know exactly when those guys came in to the best of the designer's knowledge. So I have a lot of respect for guys like Kevin Zucker who really, really dig into the information. They, go to, they get a lot of source material. They go get the, the French version, and they have people giving them the Russian stuff, and he has people giving them the Italian stuff. Yeah. It's
no, I gotta say. So I want to do two things. First, I want to say that's absolutely right, and I think I heard. And tell me if I'm wrong. You sound kind of like what I do, and maybe I got it backwards. But for me, I'll buy a game and then I buy the books. I'm like, oh, I want to explore this more, right? Normally, it's not. And I'm a big student of World War II, but grew up as a kid in that age frame of us that wasn't. I wanted to say that, but I wanted to just really quick go through. So you guys in the chat, I've put in, if you got some questions you want to ask, I want to welcome Mike Kelly. He's been local to me, about an hour away in Alameda, California. Been a lot of help. Matt, I don't know where you're from. I know you've been on the thing before. And then it looks like I see somebody named Davey. It looks like as people come in and out, ID yourself in the chat where you're from. And if you have any questions, ask away. And yeah, Matt, you're right. You do need to play great campaigns of the American Civil War. It's a phenomenal system that I must say. I remember when my friend Russ Ryder, the guy I've known for going on 30 plus years, and he brought the first Stonewall Jackson's Way to our club meeting when I used to live up in Sacramento, and and it was like, wow, this is so, I don't know, it was just so innovative at the time. And it is still a great system. And the maps, oh my God, they're just great. And Squad Leader, I mean, like you said, I play ASL. I'm the guy that was in line when ASL got released in 1985. I've been off and on ever since, right? And no, it's not a lifestyle game because I play tons of other games, but it's always a game that I've enjoyed based on, even when it was Squad Leader. I remember I was like 12 years old, and I went over a sleepover, and a friend of mine he had the resources. Basically, his parents bought him whatever game he wanted, and he's like, "Dude, I got this new game, Squad Leader," and it was like, I'm sure we played it all wrong, but it was so amazing. Ranged machine gun fire and rolling,
hiding behind walls.
Oh my God, it was just amazing, So and I always say, like, the joy of wargaming, like, enjoy your journey, Yeah. So Chris, tell us a little bit about your game that everybody should already have on pre-order. I think it's going to be a great success for Compass Games. And I'll just say this right before you get started on it. I want to say, I heard you say Third World War. I think I heard you say that.
Yeah.
If anybody here has not played Third World War from Compass Games, and I've played it now twice with all 4 games hooked up.
Wow.
It is freaking amazing. And I
see, that's the holy grail. I've never gotten all 4 of them on the table.
You got to go to a game convention.
Yeah.
And you just say, this is what we're playing. And if you don't, even if you just play like one, right? But Compass hit a home run with that one. I don't care what anybody says. It's really that good.
I got it back when it was GDW put it out. And I thought back at the time, and I still think the graphics on that game were gorgeous. And it's weird, like the maps, you look at them now, they're functional, but I still like the old style maps. I still like SPI maps. And the maps and the counter graphics in that still, I remember I was traveling. It was I just graduated undergraduate. So it was 85. And I was looking at I was out and I was in Greece, and I'm sitting on an island, and this F-16 goes over, and I was like, oh, I said, I know there's this game. I remember seeing it. There's this game, and I bet it has Greek F-16s in it. And I went home. When I got back, I got Third World War, and there it was, a little gray and black Greek F-16. I was like, this is freaking awesome. You know, it really fired me up. Anyway, so I do have the Compass one. I haven't punched it or anything. It's sitting there on my shelf waiting, but it's waiting next to all my GDW ones, which are so beautiful. I don't know.
You will not be disappointed. And
No.
I want to really quick. So Matt asked, so what are the best features of the Third World War? So I think Chris mentioned some of it.
I think the efficiency rating thing is really cool. So they have this thing where you can have like one little dinky British commando. Like I really liked Arctic Front, even though it was kind of hard to win as the Russians. The NATO forces were really eclectic, really cool. All these little dinky pieces, and you got like a little 119 British commando, let's say, and you're like, well, what is he going to do? He's a little 119, but you'd stick him in a stack, and then you average all of their proficiency ratings. So you stick them in with a couple crappy like Norwegian militia units or whatever, and all of a sudden they're way better. And I thought that was a really clever little evocative design decision.
Right.
The air war is really cool in that game. The way that the air war is done. I think it probably kind of came out of Europa, but it was much more elegant.
Simpler, yeah.
I
agree. Elegance is a good word.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of really great things about that game.
So really quick, and then I want to see, because we've got a couple more questions. But I wanted to say one of the other things that I really enjoy. First, I'll say this: everything you remember is in the new game, and honestly, I like the upgraded graphics. I agree. Cool. I think the GDW were wonderful, but Compass they didn't really change. The graphics are upgraded. One of the things I really think is innovative is what you bring up, and it's also about using the terrain. And what I love is the whole thing where the forces slowly degrade, right?
Yeah.
With the disruptions. And you have to decide, do I pull them out and rest them?
Right.
Do I,
right.
How do I do? And NATO has this really fine balancing act, but it's like where, in the Warsaw Pact is like, they degrade but they have their second line divisions and their third line, and I don't know, I could go on and on. I think it is a home run. Chuck,
they do a great asymmetrical thing with NATO and the Soviets too.
Did you ever play it, Chuck?
No, I've sort of peeked over Chris's shoulders sometimes. We haven't done that.
Yeah.
We'll get on the table, Chuck.
You guys do yourself a favor and pull out Arctic Front or Battle for Germany. Right. I think those are the two best to learn on. And Chris is going to be everything you remember.
The good thing I've gotten to the point where I'm content to say, well, I'd like to play that, but I know my good friend Chris has a copy of it, so I'll just go and play it with his copy, and I don't have to have it in my game collection.
See, I'm the opposite. I'm like, I'm so bad about it, but I literally that's why people say, God, Mark, so much your collection is still shrank or not punched, and I'd be like, well, it's getting more punched now, but it's like, yeah, that's true, but it doesn't mean I haven't played it. It just means I haven't played my copy. But
right.
I'm kind of like the all the game companies. They love me for they really do. But so Steve, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say, after what I try to stay away from, because I need to develop another series. Chris bought GMT's latest offering, Banish All Their Fears. And when I looked at that and saw the graphics, well, a copy of that is en route to my house to be arriving in the next day or so.
Good for you, Chuck. Good for you. I'm very
graphics wise, I think games are, I honestly, to me, we're in this golden age. There's something to be said for the older games. Don't get me wrong. I'm an old guy too, right? But I'm not the guy that's like, oh, this game was way better. No, you know. I think what's amazing, I was talking to my buddy from high school, Scott, who lives came by to visit me today. He was on his way down to something where else out of Portland, and I live in California. And we were talked a little bit about the internet and gaming, and I think what's amazing is, oh my God, think of all the flawed games we played back then, and not one complaint. But we had no internet, right? You would
Right. There was no ability. What are you going to do? Fire off a postcard? This game stinks.
Yeah. So Steve is asking me, and I'll make it really quick, and then we're going to go to Chris and hear about his new game from Compass, or because I keep saying that we're going to do that. He said GDW Gone Not Forgotten. He said, Mark, what's one of your favorite GDW games? I'm just going to say Third World War. Honestly, like I owned a lot of their stuff. I still do. I think GDW was phenomenal. Some great designers. Frank's still out there designing games. But Third World War, I remember I was in the service station to Travis. I was a loadmaster on C-141s, which I will say, GMT's Red Storm, I own it because it has C-141s in it. Okay. But I've got but I would come home and I'd go to the local game store and I'd be like, oh, what's this Battle for Germany? And I bought it and played it. And I was like, oh my God. And then I forgot what order they came out in, but as they came out, I acquired them and they just were great. So Chris, tell us about your game.
All right. Yeah. I'm sorry. I keep derailing us with other.
Oh no, it's okay to get.
Which I'm going to do real briefly. GDW also did Traveler, which was my go-to role-playing game back in the day. Mark Miller. That was some great stuff. I did a series of comic books, sort of semi-based on Traveler, back when that was my job, and I credit all those nights staying up late playing that game.
So now Steve made me ask this so really quick. Do you remember the magazine High Passage?
Oh yeah, I still have a ton of them. So
looking the first couple issues, and that was, a lot of people don't know this, but I'm telling you, I have the issues to prove it. That was actually done by some high school kids. One of them was named Scott Walschlager. And if you look in the first issue or two, they actually had subscribers, and it was done by a bunch of kids out of Chicago. They sold the rights to whatever FASA or whatever the company was with Mark Miller, because once they got out of high school, like my buddy Scott, that's where I met him, was in the Air Force. Oh. And but if you look at the first 2 issues, I think maybe even 3, and it's really interesting. You look at those first issues and how professional they were, and they were done by high school kids. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And there were rumors a few years ago they were talking to Mark Miller about redoing some stuff, and it never happened. But it was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's come back for different publishers over the years. I mean, I don't think it's died. I think it's still around.
Oh no, it's still going. I have it in my collection. I just bought about a year ago. Bought a Traveler starter thingy.
Yeah.
I was an original D&D box guy myself, but and then did first edition AD&D.
Yeah, I still have one of those dice left, and it's so round because all the corners have been.
You can never get rid of that.
Yeah, no, it's living in my little dice.
You got to. That's something. What you should do is preserve it, right? And then that way, when you exit the coil someday, okay. So I'm in the dark.
I can say, son, this is what I'm handing down to you.
There you go. So I want to hear about what we can expect in the box and all the excitement.
Here we go. About this. All right. Burning Banners. Well, so this is my 4th game. I did 2 Napoleonic card games with Compass, Napoleon's Eagles, they were called. And I did Brothers at War, which is a brigade level game that I'm working on the sequel to that now.
Is that the 1862 or whatever?
That was 1862, right? Yep.
Oh yeah, me and Mike Kelly are playing that March 16th at my monthly.
Oh, good, awesome. Well, let me know what you think.
I'm gonna message. Hey, Mike, I'm gonna message Chris, get his number, so that way, if we have any rules questions, we can text him.
Yeah. Good. good. I'll consider that another playtest session. You give me your notes.
Yeah, I will.
So,
I'm actually pretty good at that. I'll take
all
note.
right, good.
I will.
That would be great.
I'll do what I can. But I'm
All right.
looking forward to it. So go ahead. Sorry, the floor is
So Burning Banners. When I was in high school, we played Divine Right. Our D&D group, we played Divine Right, and it sort of blew my mind. It was like very evocative board game. TSR put it out. Anyway, I always loved the game. I still love the game. I still have a copy of it. I even have some like Xeroxed pieces of the sequel to it, Scarlet Empire, which was a map that went to the south and did all this stuff. Anyway, people love Divine Right. I love Divine Right, and I wanted to do a fantasy war game, kind of more modern mechanics, but holding to that idea of being very evocative. Like fun to play, a real war game. So like you actually have to think and you have to show courage when things go against you and all that kind of stuff. So it's a multiplayer game, but it's played in teams. So our guys, Chuck and my buddies here in Pittsburgh, we play everything pretty much. We play 2-player games, but we play them as teams. Right now we're playing the Eagles Turn East, the OSG's campaign system game. And two people play the French and 2 people play the Allies. One's the Prussians, one's the Russians, and we sort of just divvy everything up, and it's a hoot. We always love it. We played 4 players playing 2-player games like forever. So I'm a big proponent of team play. I don't think there's not a lot of it in wargaming. Either it's everybody against everybody, right, and everybody going for an individual win, or it's 2-player, or it's solo now. So Burning Banners is up to 6 players, but it's always teams. So if you're playing with 6 players, it's 3-on-3. If you're playing with 4 players, it's 3 players, it's 2-on-1. And there's just a lot of fun to be had playing that way, and I think that's kind of unique. I can't think of a lot of games that are really structured to be team games. I mean, can you think of anything? I'm just like, it just occurred to me right now that it wasn't nothing I thought of when I was designing it. It's just how we play.
Well, yeah, Chuck, or if anybody in the comments, I mean, games I can think of in terms of, and maybe it's not what you're thinking, but I think of like multiplayer games because like you said, I'll try to be game slut, whatever. But I play a lot of GMT World at War. I've played World in Flames. I've played, I like you said, I'm all over the place as long as it's a war game. But those you got to play sides at least, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, any World War II thing, you're going to be playing the Allies. Yeah, you're right.
But I've played games where, especially if I'm teaching somebody, where it's more of a like cooperative exercise than a. But I think what you're saying is true. It should be more war games where I think it does exist on some level, but like the team aspect, right? Because you're right.
I mean, I think it's fun. It's like a combo between a traditional competitive war game and a co-op game to some degree. Don't you think, Chuck? Like, like you're like when you're sitting there strategizing with your buddy, like the other thing that's fun about it when we're just playing when we're playing a game that's not intended to be a team game as teams is that it really throws some command control issues in there that can really have an effect. Like you're not really in the head of your buddy who's pushing Napoleon around,
right?
And so you're herring off in one direction, he's herring off in the other, and you're not really consulting each other, maybe, and it can cause problems. And then you go to the other room and you can say, "Hey, we should do this, we should do that, we should try this." Or it's more like when the other guys go to pee, that's when you say, "Hey, Chuck," while they're out of the room, we should. I think we should slam them in the south or whatever,
Yeah.
No,
that's a good.
That's
a good point. You want to add anything to that, Chuck, or I don't want to leave you out.
Well, having seen Burning Banners from its initial iteration, and I would guess to say what, Chris, we probably went through like 12 versions, maybe 15 versions. Right from the get go, it was very playable, very very enjoyable, and one of the few games I've played where it really winning or losing came down to like the last game turn or two. So it wasn't something where halfway through the game it was a complete blowout sort of thing.
No, that's
So
great. And when you say Divine Right, I'm just going to say this. So two things. Oh my God, I love Divine Right. And me and my brother actually just played it again about a month ago. And yes, I paid through the nose to get a copy. So I would love to see Compass Games maybe read. I don't
Yeah,
know. So you talk about nostalgia, and we had fun with it. You know, it's clunky. It shows us age some, but
yeah, but it still works.
what
Yeah,
great memories. You know, like I love to say I love everything about wargaming. It's just phenomenal. But Burning Banners, I'm not kidding you. The day that Compass said Burning Banners, here's what it is. I was like, bam, pre-order, done, right? Really quick, we got 10 people watching. So if you haven't ID'd yourself and you're watching in the chat, you got a question, jump in. Hey, ID Jester, trying to say hi to everybody. But, uh, I think that what I always appreciate, Chris, is appreciate you guys, the creators. Like, I'm a hobbyist, I'm a player. Yeah, I've done some play testing and stuff, but I think just the fact that we have creators, I celebrate every day. And, like I'm big on Facebook or whatever, not big like, ooh, my head's big. I mean, like I'm very active on a lot of different groups. Uh,
mhm.
and I always say, I tell you one thing that drives me nuts is a game comes out and it's like, oh, it's broken. Oh, right. And it's like, you know what, guys? How about just
Yeah.
relax?
Calm down. Calm
It's
down.
like, because guess what? Because my thing is, you know, and this shows about you guys, but I just want to share this is like, because to me it's so important is like what creators do is so great because without it, A, we wouldn't have a hobby, right? And B, to put your work out there like that. And I always say this, you know what? Chuck might love a game. Mike might love a game. Chris might love a game. Mark might love a game. You might hate it. But you know what? If I'm posting, hey, this is the greatest game since sliced bread, like, hey, you know what? Don't rain on my parade. You got some creative or constructive criticism? Great.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, it's a pet peeve of mine, which since I've been sick, I've learned to, you know what, I don't waste a lot of energy on stuff. But it's like, it has always driven me nuts where it's like, okay, how about you? Like, why do you got to like rain on somebody's parade?
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
just makes no sense. But I want to thank you because I think you and Compass are going to have a big hit on your hands with this, and it looks like from what I've heard. And I tell you, I'm really excited to get it because it was like just the genre and it's fantasy and whatever. I just think I'm really looking forward to getting it and getting it to the table myself. And
Yeah.
Well,
Appreciate that.
I think
so
one of the masterful things that Chris has done in this is that uh, they're essentially six different sides or six different races, factions, however you want to say it. They're each very unique. They have some. They each have their own strength. They have their own weaknesses. They kind of blend with different factions and such. And so it's like you get a totally different experience whether you sit down and play goblins one time or the empire the other time. So I think that's what also makes this particular game, I think, uh, what wargamers will appreciate, and I think the fantasy guys are going to gobble this up when they see it. I think uh, I mean, especially Chris in the different iterations really. I mean, the game was always enjoyable right from version 1.0, Chris, but I mean, the way you sweated blood and streamlined it and managed to make it even more playable without losing the nuances. I mean, kudos to you.
I
Kudos.
appreciate that. Well, it was a long process. It was definitely, and this is kind of to go along with what you were saying about creators in general is that this is something that most people don't know, but there's very little money being made by creators.
No.
Yeah, very little. No, I know it's a shock.
Oh my
But it's
God!
actually true.
I
So
thought you were
these-
buying one of those super yachts with your.
yeah. So like, I think that's the other part of this is that it's like, all this stuff is being done out of love. Basically, there's not, nobody's doing this to become rich. Like, okay, if you go into, high finance, maybe you don't love it. There's maybe other reasons why you're doing that, but there's no reason to spend years working on stuff to put it out there and then get yelled at by people unless you really love doing it. You know what I mean? So
and see here, I thought you guys were raking in the millions.
Yeah, I know everybody has that impression, but it's really, I'm just telling you, it's not really true.
Yeah. Okay, good. No, we want to have the truth here on Ruggiero's Corner. Absolutely,
exactly. Just pulling back the curtain a little bit. Yeah.
Well, I know that. No, go ahead, Chuck.
I think the one thing as a gamer / playtester is for two of my favorite designers, my dear friend Chris and also Kevin Zucker, their designs, when you really play them, really you really appreciate the mindset of what was going on at the time, or like in Chris's games, Brothers at War, the ebb and flow of what happens, and so you really it's essentially it recreates without binding you to coming out with the same outcome each and every time. So I think that's where, for me as a player, somewhat historian, that's where I like that Walter Mitty sort of thing, to sort of see what the commanders were up to. I mean, for example, when we played Napoleon's Last Gamble as a campaign game after the Battle of Ligny, just to say, oh, we'll just go ahead and chase the Prussians. Well, the road network was horrible. And I think until we played the Library of Napoleonic Games, we never really realized, we think, well, why do people keep to the roads? Well, we found out very quickly why people keep to the roads and why that was so important.
And why Waterloo was where the thing happened.
Well,
like all roads lead to Waterloo. Like we made that comment when we were playing that game, that well, it's obvious why you fought at Waterloo. Like this whole story, like Wellington said, we will fight on this ground because this is good ground, or whatever. It's like, yeah, it's good ground because all the roads lead there. You know what I mean? Like, so that makes it good ground.
What's really interesting. So before the show, just so people know, Chris had asked me one of the things, like what kind of stuff was on my channel, because you hadn't really looked that much, and I do learn the plays and deep dives, I call them, and this and that. But one of the games, at least till I get distracted by the next shiny object, I'm doing a deep dive on World War I right now, and I'm doing a learn to play the Der Weltkrieg series from Dave Schroeder, which is SPW games, decision cells, blah blah blah. But the reason I bring it up is because what's really interesting about the map, and if you've never looked at the series, you can look at my videos. There's some other really good ones out there, and it drives some people nuts, but it kind of grows on you. Is actually the hexagons are divided like pies, okay,
little triangles. Yeah, I've seen that.
Right?
Yeah.
And what's really interesting about that whole thing, right, to me is, and I love maps, is it just shows you actually not only, the armies went this way, but you actually can look at the map, and once you get used to it, go, so that's why the armies march this way, because it was less resistance and easier to go, right? But like you said with Kevin's games, I was going to say this, like the games today, and I've kind of, as I've learned to appreciate it, I think the older I get, but they're also like your favorite tea or wine or whatever, to be savored and enjoyed and explored, and I love, one thing I love about Kevin's games is, and there's a lot of people like, oh, I don't like the combat system, and there's an alternate system out there, I guess, that a lot of people love because it kills more troops, right? And I could be wrong, but I think that's the main reason. And what I've always loved about Library of Battles is I love the system he did. I call it bumper cars, but it really shows once you commit your forces, they're committed, right? The locking Zocs. And it's definitely about maneuver warfare.
Right.
It's more about, gee, I really need to give this some thought before I commit my troops. And how am I going to try to do these attacks to get guys surrounded? But the library of battles, I love. The battle scenarios are fun. But I love the way he did the approach to battles. And yeah,
absolutely.
I'm Italian. That's why I talk with my hands. But,
Right.
you know, but yeah, and I've really gotten into lately, like I said, I still love World War II. I love it all, but
Right.
a lot of Napoleonics. I just got Kevin's new game, the one I literally just got it in the mail yesterday, his release,
Yep.
The newest one. I haven't even got it yet.
Mine should be arriving Friday.
Yeah, it should be soon. I already seen people online complaining about how they didn't get it yet, and I said, "Just relax,
relax, guys."
Kevin sent out like 3 million emails saying, "Hey, check, make sure your pre-orders here." So,
well, if you're in a World War I bent, what I swear before I shuffle off this mortal coil, I'm going to inflict on Chris and the gang is a French design La Grande Guerre, which is all of World War I on a very big strategic level, and I'm on the side deep diving into trying to put that in everybody.
Oh, that looks like from As You Wish, right? And it looks so good. The one thing that's funny is people go, "Mark, you know so much about games." I don't know if that's true, but I do know a lot. But I will say this: I'm going to just World War I. I'm going to say this. One of the most overlooked games that's out there that's phenomenal. I have played 6, 7, 8 full campaigns of it. And I'm going to tell you, Decision game Storm of Steel. And with the update kit, Bob Medro, who I mentioned earlier, did a lot of work on it. I helped him do a lot of it. He did, but what do I like about it? It's all your main fronts that you can play out in a 4-day game convention. It's a game that you do not, it's got just enough chrome to keep it really interesting, and you can try different strategies and all kinds of stuff, but it's enough. It came out at a time when there was a lot of other World War I games, and I'm just being honest. Yeah, it's a decision game, which, by the way, I think they've really stepped their game up the last few years. They've gotten a lot better. But wonderful game. And the other one is another Compass game that you guys should look at, is even though it's got funky looking units, is Balance of Power. Really.
Is that World War I? I don't know anything about it.
Absolutely. It's out of print, but you can still get it for a pretty reasonable price.
Cool.
But Le Grand Guerre, yes, bless you, brother, because I have it. And I love complexity. And
this is complex.
I've played World at War and I play ASL. So
there you go.
I think you'll enjoy it. I just wanted to throw out, there's so many good games and so many different subjects out there. Honestly, it's fun.
Yeah, Ted Racier's Great War in Europe. We played that and had a blast with it. And that's another great one as a team game as well. Because it's divided into the two fronts are divided. There's the East Front and the West Front, and you can do a switch. The Central Powers can switch who goes first on which front. So if you see them setting up for, like setting up defensively on one front, you got to get ready because it's going to switch and come over to you on the other.
And there's very cool. And there's no real downtime in that game because while you're moving your guys on this front, and you're right. And if you remember, the supply rules are deadly. God
very
help
bad,
you. And the turn flip can be very dramatic.
Yeah,
absolutely, right.
Yeah, it's super cool. But those are both things I really like. I like high stakes kind of stuff in games, so I love both of those aspects. And then I loved how your sacks would go gone, and then reinforcements. It like you really very graphically got the feeling of World War I doing its thing,
Steve here in the chat says Death in the Trenches, and I haven't tried that yet. But I got that from, Compass. So Compass? It's another Compass, and it's I do believe that it's Death in the Trench is designed by the same guy that now out of print from Compass designed Absolute Victory, which was SPI's Global War 35 years later. And a lot of people hated the map. Um, I got to tell you, it has tons of random events in it that are all could have happened historically. You might have to roll 12 twice in a row to get it.
Yeah.
But I've played it a couple times, and it was one of the best. Literally, Germany's like 4 hexes across, I think, or something. Like it's very strategic. But
Yeah.
I think it's a great game. And one thing, like you said, you look at the map, you're like, oh my god. But actually, there's no ambiguity like where guys can move, how much they cost, and I've played it anyway. So yeah, I could go on.
Yeah.
Go on. I just man, we're in this new golden age. I'm just telling you. There's just
no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. One of the things that I really love, from my perspective, is like because of computers now, I learned how to use Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, and I learned how to use Photoshop. And with both of those, I basically can build a game top to bottom, every element. And then the only last thing I had to Ken Dingley worked at Compass, and he left after a while. And he was the guy who did the rule books, my rule books the first couple times. And he was a talented guy. I really liked how he did the rule books. And I'm like, okay, I guess I got to learn InDesign. So I learned InDesign. So now I can do the rule books too. So now literally top to bottom, I can do the boxes, I can do the units, I can do the maps, I can do the artwork, I can do the rule book even. Like I mean, talk about golden age. Like you could not do that when I was coming up. Graphic design, you were cutting with an X-Acto knife, and you were, getting a wax gun, and you were making mechanicals, and it was way too much work for one person to do it, much less make it look good.
I have a really good buddy of mine, Kevin Meal, and he lives up in Reno. And it's funny, when he was in college, he worked in the art department at SPI, and so he would tell me stories about the process they had to go through just to do like a 3-color game, right?
Oh yeah.
And I remember, like I said, I'm a huge Roger McGowan fanboy, and I got to have a beer with him back in 2004. And but he would tell me stories about when he started Fire and Movement magazine, and we're still friends. I still talk to him, but you're right that what people can do. Now, I will say sometimes it goes like, so one of the best magazines out there is called War Diary magazine. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a great magazine. I highly recommend it. It's comes out, I think, 3 times a year now. But the reason I bring it up, it has great old school articles like strategy and tactics and history and this and that, and very good. But the only complaint I've ever had about it, and I shared about it with him, is Mark Ruggiero complains once in a while. Sometimes in games have happened too, where they get a little too carried away with the art stuff, where it's like,
absolutely. Yep.
Did you think about that? This black print's hard to read with this like dark watercolor. It looks beautiful, but then when I'm trying to read it, and thank God, or the powers that be, whatever. Like I'm not colorblind, right? Because I know that but I will say, the stuff that's out there, and like you said, the process now, and you did it, you lived it, right?
Well, there's a very famous Howard Chaykin is a comic book legend, and he had a very, very funny quote talking about just exactly what you were saying about the computers and all the bells and whistles. He said basically you're giving a 3-year-old the keys to a Ferrari. It doesn't always end well. You know what I mean? So basically in any era, like you go back and you look at stuff from the 70s, there's there's plenty of bad art, bad design, horrible design back then too. So all you have now is you have way more ways to make a mess than you used to,
No, that's why, it's so like I said earlier, we all have these, great memories, and it's like, God, before the internet, how did we play all these errata-free games? Oh wait, they weren't errata-free. We just didn't have the internet, right?
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, like, for all its flaws, and would I play it again? Probably not. And I still have a copy of it. But Tactics 2. Honest, it's the game that got me started. Had great fun with it, but it's like those memories, right? Like even though I'm having to get rid of a lot of my collection, just because is I mean, I have games that I will not sell because, like, oh, I played that with my friend Alan that passed away 25 years ago, or
Oh, for sure.
and you get these vivid memories, right? Like it's just I do. You could ask Mike, he really knows me. Like I say it probably way too much. One of the reasons I play war games, because that 10-year-old, that 12-year-old kid with the wide eyes and the oh my gosh is still inside.
Yeah.
And it's what keeps it going, for
Absolutely.
me. So with that, like what really keeps your passion going? Is it that, who like opening that new game, or what, what keeps you guys, Chris and Chuck, what keeps you?
All right, Chuck, you start with you.
Doing it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's just that I'm in a self-perpetuating loop of just enjoying learning about history, and I think one of the things that I found very enriching, and I've been lucky to do, is to go to these various sites. Like I've seen a lot of the Civil War sites. I was lucky enough that crossed off my bucket list going to the Omaha beaches, going to Waterloo, going to the World War battlefield of Verdun. So it's just to stand in that place and to try and get a sense of what was going on, or to see how the lay of the land does things. And my wife says, "Well, why are you going back to Gettysburg? You've been there a dozen times." And I say to her, "Well, honestly, every time I go, I see something that I didn't see before, or I learn something new." And especially for the Park Service, the rangers at these different Civil War battlefields, they are just gold mines, and they're just like there's not a question, there's not a silly question that you can't ask them. So I would encourage everybody, if you've not had the delight of getting out there and seeing it with the Rangers, to definitely do that. But for me, I just always enjoy learning. Always did enjoy saying about, well, gee, I didn't know that, or I didn't appreciate that.
Right.
No.
Okay.
Oh, for sure.
Correct.
Yeah. I'll second that. Just like I was never really a big American Civil War fan. I wasn't that interested, and until I went to Antietam. So my wife and I did a bike trip from Washington D.C. to Pittsburgh, all along the Potomac.
Oh, wow.
And the trail went right through Sharpsburg, and I said, well, let's plan one of our evenings there, and take an extra day just to be there, whatever, hang out. We'll be tired anyway. Our butts will be sore, and then we'll keep going. And so we had our bikes, and we just biked around that whole battlefield, and it's a beautiful one, and it was the right one to go, to have it be your sort of first visit, because I fell in love, and so yeah, I'm with Chuck on that. Like I think going to the places where these things happen, there's something very sacred and moving about being there, about actually seeing the ground. It's like you see the maps, and all that, but then you go and you see the ground, and you're like, oh, well, how would I do that with a map? I don't know. Like
one of my bucket lists, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it or not, but is to go to Europe. And I'll say this: my friend Mike Kelly, who's on here, brought me some sand right from I think it was Omaha Beach. I mean, Mike's probably going to shoot me because I don't know, but I know he brought me some sand. But I want to say I was in Gettysburg in '98. I was actually supposed to go this weekend. There's a gaming event there, but whatever, I had to cancel. So, but I can remember when I was there in '98, I wanted to try to go back in, and hopefully in August I'm going to Chickamauga.
Wow, that's a great one.
Good one too.
But I walked the whole Union line from Cemetery Hill, spent the day, walked the whole thing. And I can remember standing at the angle for probably like 30 minutes. And I literally just got lost in my thoughts. And you're looking out across this field where Pickett's men had charged across. Just the whole idea of, I don't want to say, well, I will. For me, it was almost like this religious experience. But, you're just thinking, were these guys insane or were they that brave? Were they, and and it just makes the history even come more alive, like along with the books and the gaming and the, it's also amazing. So I want to say this, we've been about an hour. I want to give you guys a moment, any last thoughts, anything you want to add. And I don't know if it was you, Chris, but I knew that, see how fast the hour goes by when we do this? It's a lot of fun. And I got, I'll close it out, but I want to offer you guys a chance to, is there anything, let's see if there's any questions we missed really quick. Jeff said that he's agreeing with Chuck about when he went to Borodino for the first time, his jaw dropped. So that means he's been twice when he went back, I guess.
I'm jealous, man.
I'm extremely jealous.
Unfortunately, political climate being what it is, I don't think we can go anytime soon.
Not this lifetime.
If you don't know Hexy, Hex to Hex, you can go back and look. He's got a great channel. And Gawaya is a phenomenal channel on. It's all about World War I and the Durrell Krieg series. Me and him actually got a show coming up. It's his show. I'm going to be a guest on Thursday. But
well, I do have
final comments. Go ahead.
I do have a leg up on your one friend because I have a jar of sand from Omaha and from Utah Beach, and I have pictures to show that yes, I didn't just go down to the 5 and dime store, but.
He was there, so I know he brought it back with him, and it was phenomenal for me because he knows it's on my bucket list.
Right.
I may not make it, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, I think in closing, which probably comes as no surprise to the people that are tuned in, but if anything, I've come to appreciate wargaming more these last, believe it or not, Chris, it's been 11 years that Chris and Chris and his buddies graciously took me in one dark night, and that we've been actually playing these games and enjoying the shared experience of having a lucky die roll or using the rules or reading the map to say, oh, this is, an interesting winkle of things. So I would say that although there's a room for solo gaming, that there's no question that it's the camaraderie of the shared playing that's the most important. And that
amen. Yep. Amen, buddy. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Chris, any final thoughts or?
Yeah, no, I mean, this has been really fun. I appreciate you inviting us on, and yeah, we here's to another 10, 20, who knows, however many years of gaming.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And so with that, I just want to first, of course, thank Chris and Chuck for being on here. I have a great time doing this. Want to thank everybody that showed up in the chat. A lot of people I think are going to see this, after the fact. And I just want to say, anybody that's here, here's this. And if you're interested in being on Ruggiero's Corner, just PM me or shoot me an email. I'll get it in the description eventually, my email contact info. But yeah, wargaming is it's great. It's a great way to meet fellow gamers. Chris, can't wait for your game, and I will
awesome. Send me notes, man.
I'll shoot you an email with what notes we get on your brother. And it looks like I need to get my friend Mike to go buy a dang copy because we're going to play it and he doesn't own a copy. What, like he thinks I'm going to teach it to him?
Come on.
I will. But no, just, hey, you know what? It's a phenomenal journey. You guys are part of it. And thank you for, thanks for sharing an hour with me and everybody on here.
So much,
and,
really privilege.
Appreciate you guys. Oh, it's all pleasure's all mine. I love it also. So until next time, have a great day and a great weekend and enjoy the games. And yes, the social aspect is definitely number one. Absolutely.
And don't forget, roll low.
That's right. Yeah, well, it depends what game you're playing.
Depends on the game, but yeah.
That's right.
Or high or low. Depends.
That's
right. That's not quite as snappy.
That's
So are we
right.
using Chris's tables or the rules as written? So
Uh,
that's an old story.
all right. Hey, take care,
All right.
guys.
Thanks,
We'll
Mark.
see you next time.
All
Bye.
right. Alrighty.